Don't know till I try, do I?
Exactly.
See? I've got everything we need.
Well, great. Let's get started then.
You've got to put these goggles on.
Goggles?
Put them on like this.
Okay. What? Like that?
Claire has been thrown a pair of goggles. Notice what she did. This wasn't acted. She felt the need to reach down for those goggles.
I mean, look, maybe we shouldn't have trusted him. It was Peter Molyneux, but like, how many projects was he really a lead developer on before this? Apparently one too many. Ah, the Kinect. What a wonderful piece of technology. It was definitely ahead of its time for sure. No one had ever really had a motion sensor-like piece of technology before this. Okay, nobody but Nintendo. But I mean, look, it was really good for playing Just Dance. And I mean, it worked for other games really good too, right? It wasn't just a shovelware piece of technology. And yeah, that was the biggest problem with all this motion detection technology. Everyone had a bunch of ideas, but nobody really knew how to execute them well, and those who did, ultimately at the end of the day, they were just gimmicks. Even if they were good games, they weren't good games with staying power. For example, a lot of people really liked the Nintendo Wii, but how many people just bought the Nintendo Wii, played Wii Sports 3 times, and then never turned the system on again? I remember first getting my Kinect while on a vacation in South Carolina. I still have it, mind you, but the most use it ever got was while I was in South Carolina, and after that I really only used it for doing video chats and Kinect microphone. And people were always quick to mute you the moment they heard that it was echoing, because they knew you were using a Kinect. The Kinect released November 4th of 2010, and the thing sold incredibly well, especially for peripheral. In the first 60 days, it sold over 8 million units. Believe it or not, most of the people that got the Kinect or used the Kinect were honestly usually families. Like, it attracted a new audience of casual and family-friendly oriented content. Of course, that resulted in a lot of shovelware, but it did its job, and it did it okay enough. I mean, the thing went on to sell about 36 million units on the 360. It just wasn't exactly widely adopted to the typical Xbox gamer audience of the time, and there's no surprises there. I'm just surprised it got as many new people introduced to the 360 as it did. But I think everyone knows why we're here, and it's not because we're talking about the Xbox 360 Kinect, because while it was a gimmick and it was kinda cool, it really didn't do a whole lot, but it sold pretty well. Obviously, the reason we're here is for the Xbox One Kinect, and the only reason that thing sold in the first place is because it was packaged in with Xbox Ones.
We started with a sensor that turned voice and movement into magic.
Xbox, play.
And we thought, this will be fun to play with. And it was. But something amazing is happening.
Experiences that can't be done in any other medium or on any other console. While providing core gamers a level of control they never dreamed possible.
So while the Xbox 360 Kinect sold so fast when it first came out that it won a Guinness World Record for fastest selling consumer electronic device, Microsoft had recognized around the time of the 55 million unit base of the Xbox 360, only about 20% of the people actually got a Kinect. The Kinect team recognized a lot of the downsides that came with actually using the Kinect itself, such as latency of motion detection and issues with speech recognition. So Microsoft's bright idea was, why don't we make a second generation unit and release it with the Xbox One, and begun development in mid-2011. Part of the early Xbox One specifications was that the new Kinect hardware would be automatically included with the console, so that developers would know that the Kinect hardware would be available for any Xbox One. Of course, though, developers did not take advantage of this, and this is for one main reason. When Microsoft announced the Xbox One in May of 2013 and shown in more detail in E3 2013 in June, Microsoft stated at these events that the Xbox One would include the updated Kinect hardware and it would be required to be plugged in at all times for the Xbox One to function. Immediately, unsurprisingly, several people had tons of security concerns with this, such as targeted advertising and performing unauthorized surveillance on users. In response to those claims, however, Microsoft reiterated that the Kinect voice recognition and motion tracking can be disabled by users, and also that the Kinect cannot be used for advertising per its privacy policy, and of course that the console would not redistribute user-generated content without permission. Unsurprisingly, in August of 2013 though, Microsoft went back on just about every single one of these things, except for one: the fact that they still force you to get a Kinect with the Xbox One in the first place, which still didn't make people happy because it made the base price of the Xbox One at release $499. This was not only $100 more than the PlayStation 4, but not even 5 months later, in March of 2014, they decided to sell a Kinectless Xbox One for $400. Just a bit too little too late there, Microsoft. It was killed off in Microsoft so quickly because no one was making games for it that in 2015 at E3 it wasn't even mentioned. And in 2016 at E3, when they announced the Xbox One S, they announced it without a dedicated Kinect port. Without saying it directly until 2017, that was basically Microsoft's way of saying, yeah, we just killed the Kinect. On the bright side though, while the Kinect unit for the Xbox platform had pretty much died out, the Kinect had found new life in academia and other applications. It's a pretty inexpensive way to add depth sensing to existing applications, and at the offsetting the high cost of unreliability of other 3D camera options at the time, in robotics, Kinect depth sensing would enable robots to determine the shape and approximate distances to obstacles and maneuver around them. So, not only is the Kinect now being used in robotics, but the Kinect is now also being used as well for Microsoft Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud computing service. Using more powerful features enabled by Azure, it would use things like artificial intelligence that would improve the accuracy of the depth sensing and reduce the power demand, while also being able to lead to more compact Kinect units. Later on, in 2021, Sky UK announced a new line of Sky Glass television units to launch in 2022 that incorporate the Kinect technology in partnership with Microsoft. Basically, this would allow viewers to do stuff like control the television through motion controls and audio commands. It also supported social features such as social viewing. While the Kinect was a great piece of technology for its time that was capable of doing a lot of cool things, ultimately the idea of the Kinect didn't really appeal to gamers because it was just, in a way, and in a lot of ways really, just an inferior version to what we had with Wii remotes. But later on in its life, the Kinect was more than capable of not only enhancing and furthering the development and stuff with science and artificial intelligence, but also being used in everyday things like TVs and cloud computing networks to do just regular stuff for everyday people, and people don't really know it. It's pretty cool technology. All in all, while the Kinect was an experimental idea with gaming, it was an absolute success when it came to scientific technology, and for that, it should be praised. Ultimately though, that's why the Kinect failed. It didn't really fail on an overall scale, but on a gaming scale it really just didn't do that great. I mean, a lot of people who play games tend to be like, oh well, I like the controller and I like the game, or I like the mouse and keyboard and I like the game. People don't really want to sit down and use motion technology to do all this and that. Ultimately, something like that turns out to be a gimmick. The only real future in any type of motion technology that we really have is VR stuff, and thousands of people play VR stuff every day, because it truly is an innovation that allows you to use your entire body in an entirely different, life-altering kind of experience as if you're really there. Even if the technology hasn't come that far yet, it's certainly getting there, but it was never going to get there with something like the Kinect. But that's this episode of Why It Failed. If you enjoyed this episode, suggest some stuff down below. I plan to do some other types of videos in the future too, but this is just what I'm currently working on. See you next time, and I hope you enjoyed it.